Hello, and thanks for joining me on Life and Surround. Today's topic is the Great Quad Rescue. So the Great Quad Rescue, what do I mean by that? Back in the 70s, there was an era of several years where albums were mixed into 4-channel quad. Original analog formats included tape technology, such as Q4 and Q8, Q4 being reel-to-reel and Q8 being 8-track, if you can believe that. And also LP formats, discrete formats like CD4, where each channel was split with 100% accuracy and no bleed-through to or from other channels. But also there were matrix technologies like SQ and QS that worked off of kind of phase relationship manipulation, where the fronts and the rears were only maybe 70 to 80% distinct from each other, so not entirely discrete. Whether the destination was tape or LP, the original multi-track recordings, whether that was 4-track, 8-track, 16-track, 32-track, or whatever, had to be mixed down to 4 channels. Those would be called the quad masters. Now, I call this video the Great Quad Rescue because we know that master tapes don't last forever. Whether we're talking about the multi-tracks that the band originally recorded in the studio, a mono mixdown, a stereo mixdown, or even a quad mixdown. The recent discovery of the massive universal fire around 8 years ago should be a warning to us all that tapes need to be transferred to digital and preferably mastered onto an optical format or released as digital downloads before it's too late. I'm linking an article to the universal fire below in case you would like more information. So I happen to have some 70s quad LPs and I want to show them off just for a second. So first we have Blood, Sweat and Tears, New City. This is an SQ LP, and again that means matrix, phase relationship manipulation. We see the band there at a show. Quadraphonic mixing engineer, Carmine Rubino. And here we have SQ again. Switched on Bach, Walter Carlos, playing Bach on a Moog. This has got to be awesome. I can't play this in quad, but I should throw this on in stereo sometime. It sounds like good times. I don't really see any information here on who mixed it. And here we have an LP that I've been aware of since my childhood, really. I don't know if it was a quadraphonic copy, but I've seen this record around in various people's collections at the library. This one is, again, SQ. Very distinctive cover showing where they put the different instruments. I love that they place different parts of the orchestra in the different channels. And we're going to be seeing this again, so stay tuned. And moving on to a quadradisc, I think that's synonymous with CD4. It's Sibelius, Symphony No. 2. And now we have the Guess Who. We're also going to be seeing this one again. Quadradisc, yep, it says CD4. To my understanding, that stands for Compatible Discrete 4-Channel. So you can play it discretely if you have the special stylus, the decoder, and the extra speakers, or you can play it in stereo if that's your thing. And rounding out my quadraphonic LP collection, we have Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth, and we're also going to see this one in just a little bit. Again, CD4, and this is actually a pretty cool album. And for your edification, I'm linking a quad wiki down below. Alright, so that's it for a little bit of quad history, but let's move on to kind of the quad present and hopefully the quad future. Fortunately for us, there have been a great deal of quad masters that have been mastered to an optical format. Optical meaning CD, SACD, DVD, or Blu-ray. So over time there have been a variety of different labels and record companies that have utilized 70s quad sources for an updated release. So let's rip through some of those just for fun, and maybe you'll see something that you like and you didn't know exists. Starting off, we have ELO. I was just talking about this with my dad yesterday. He says he loves ELO. I have this and Zoom Tour, both in discrete surround. And this was from 1973, I think. This is their original album. And so it's pretty heavy on like cello. It is not a whole lot like later ELO, but I really dig it. This is cool stuff, and I'm glad that it got rescued from analog into optical. It's going to last much longer. I don't need crazy vintage equipment that costs tens of thousands of dollars and that is in constant need of repair and calibration. throw this right in my Blu-ray player through a modern AVR, and I'm good to go. ELO. Debut. Very cool. And then we have Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth. Where have we seen this before? So as far as I understand, let me see, this is UMG. As far as I understand, Universal, they couldn't find the Quad Master, so our friend in the surround hobby army of Quad, I believe, transferred his own Q8 tape, an 8-track tape, and that's what appears on this DVD, is Army of Quad's Q8 transfer. And though it's sad that the master couldn't be located, this actually does sound really great. And it does underscore the point that masters do disappear and become destroyed. So, lucky for us that this has been rescued. Thank you, Army of Quad. Moving right along, we have Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. This appears in the Immersion box set. If you see this on eBay in a blue Blu-ray case, it's a fraud. This cardboard sleeve came in the Immersion box set, and then I subsequently sold the rest of the set. So this Blu-ray holds the James Guthrie 5.1, but the original Alan Parsons Quad. And it's awesome. I recommend the Quad. Same thing. Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here came in the Immersion box set, mastered to Blu-ray. The name of the original 70s Quad engineer escapes me, I apologize, but I will insert it here. Alright. Hopefully he'll forgive me. And then in the recent Pink Floyd early years set, but they broke out into smaller sets, so 1970 Deviation. This has a Blu-ray and a DVD containing the Quad mix of Atom Heart Mother, and it's super amazing. You get basically the band up in front and the orchestra in back, so you can finally hear what everybody's doing. So Atom Heart Mother on Blu-ray. And there was another small set that has echoes in Quad, so that's basically half of metal, the better half. So I haven't picked up that yet, but I'm not opposed. I just haven't. And then Jethro Tull, working with a label called Chrysalis, has been reissuing their classic albums with Steven Wilson 5.1 remixes, but the cool thing is that often the original Quad LP has been flat transferred onto one of the DVDs as well. So here we see Aqualung. Pretty awesome. So you have the chance to compare Steven Wilson's modern mix with the original Quad. And then we also have Minstrel in the Gallery. And some of these Jethro Tull reissues don't have an original Quad with it, like Thick as a Brick, sadly. But some do. And those are the two, just browsing through my collection really quickly, that I happened to see. And moving right along, I think we're going into DTS Entertainment territory here. And I'm just going to quickly show you both Ohio players, Fire and Honey. DTS Entertainment has put out quite a few titles, and I just wanted to use those as notable examples. And now moving ahead to Audio Fidelity. Within the last decade, these guys put out tons of quads. Unfortunately for us, they ceased to put out multi-channel SACDs a couple of years ago. But it was great while it lasted, and we got Jeff Beck Group out of it. Now I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit, just because the comparison I think is going to be interesting. Sony Japan also put out Jeff Beck Group on SACD. I haven't had a chance to directly A/B these, so I don't know if the mastering is at all different. But I've heard good things about the Sony Japan, and I love the audio fidelity. So I just thought it would be interesting to show you that two different labels have both put it out. And then also Sony, I believe, Epic Sony, put out Beck, Bogère, and A Piece. Is it Boggart or Beaugère? I'm gonna go with Beaugère until somebody corrects me. And this is a kind of a funky format, 20-bit, 5.1 channel. 20-bit mastering, I think, but what you play back on your DTS decoding player, be that a DVD player or a Blu-ray player, is really 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz, so Redbook CD quality in 6 channels. And sometimes these DTS CDs sound amazing. So don't let the kind of arcane format deter you. Some of these are really great. So happens that Sony Japan also put out Beck, Beaugère, and Apis. And I think this does sound a bit better in this case. Alright, and moving along, we have Analog Productions doing Jeff Beck's Blow by Blow. Fortunately, we have a lot of Jeff Beck quads available in optical. I'm not showing you wired or rough and ready, for instance, but they do exist. And you guessed it, Sony Japan in the 7-inch packaging format has also put out Blow by Blow. I think it's worth noting that this 7-inch Sony Japan package and a much older Sony SACD release have some phase inaccuracies. They have been corrected on the Analog Productions SACD, so go for this guy, okay? It's my pro tip of the day. Now, recently, I think it was as recent as last year, John Lennon Estate released Imagine. This not only has like a modern 5.1, really balanced in your room kind of mix, stereocentric but with plenty going on in the rears, but it also has like an in the studio 5.1 raw mix where parts have like a great deal of separation, and it feels actually like more like a classic old quad in the sense that you have certain parts hard panned, like drums on one side, bass on another, and so forth. But in this set, you also have the original quadrasonic mix. That's right, quadrasonic. I'm not sure any other album has been dubbed quadrasonic, but originally the quad of Imagine was called quadrasonic, and it has been lovingly included in this Imagine set. So I can't recommend this set enough. It's great. Alright, and another big set, we have Eric Clapton's Gimme Strength. This covers the era where he had just come back from drug addiction and was getting into a bit of a reggae thing with a band from Tulsa, I think. So we get 461 Ocean Boulevard and There's One in Every Crowd. 461 in this set has a 5.1 remix, but you also get the original quads of both albums. And this was done by Polydor. So lots of record labels getting into the game here. Alright. And that brings us to the home stretch. We have Sony working with DTS CDs. We have Poco's Crazy Eyes. Super awesome. It's kind of like old Eagles, if you're into like On the Border type of stuff. We have Edgar Winter's Jasmine Night Dreams. Now, I understand there are like other Edgar Winter's quads that could be rescued. So hopefully someday. And while we're talking about the Eagles a second ago, there are also Eagles quads that I know a lot of people would love to see the light of day. And here we have Allman Brothers live at Fillmore East. Super cool. And Clement, in honor of your 1-year anniversary on quadraphonicquad.com, I know you've been asking me to get to Bachman-Turner Overdrive Not Fragile. This will get its own video, complete with like mix diagrams and, you know, like a rundown of the music and the sonics and everything. But I'm briefly mentioning it here just for you, my friend. And this video is brought to you by the power of the ring, okay? So I haven't forgotten you. Oh, and I completely forgot a minute ago. This was sent to me lovingly with no expectation of remuneration by Clement. And the value of this SACD was donated to Keith Ling's Cancer Fund. So I just wanted to kind of give people a little bit of backstory on that. So Blow by Blow will also get its own video. I will juxtapose it to the Analog Productions. So forgive me for that brief rewind, but I thought that was important to note. Alright, now we get to one of the all-time greatest quad releases in the optical format that the Earth has been blessed with to this point. It's Chicago Quadio by Rhino Records. This has 9 classic Chicago albums in quad. Totally amazing. Totally amazing. Chicago Transit Authority, which is their debut, through Chicago 10. And leaving out Chicago 4 because it was a live album, never put out in quad. And you even get Chicago 9, which is like a greatest hits to that point. Oh my gosh, this is just an amazing set. This set has me wanting to set up a dedicated quad room here at my house. I have a 5.1, 7.1 Atmos RO3D system, and the speaker distances aren't exactly right for quad, but I really want to set up a room that's like perfectly equidistant listening from every speaker, and this set is like really the driving force behind that. This is incredible. These are transferred to Blu-ray, and so for the first time ever you hear these classic Chicago quads in the best clarity that we're ever going to get. Absolutely amazing that Rhino put that out. And on a much smaller scale, they happen to put out the Doors Best Of, which if I understand correctly was one of the first quads. It was actually meant to be like a demonstration of what quad can do. And bundled in with this quad Blu-ray, you get 2 CDs worth of mono stuff from the Doors. So this is a killer set. If it's still out there and in print, I recommend we basically buy it out, because this is awesome. And again, companies kind of double dipping. Audio Fidelity previously had put out the Doors Best Of on Quad SACD, but I'm glad that Rhino put out their Blu-ray because I actually think it sounds a little bit better, but you can't go wrong with either one. Alright? Just thought it would be interesting to show that 2 labels had put out the same thing again. And also, sticking with Audio Fidelity, we have Billy Cobham's Spectrum, Grover Washington Jr.'s Wine Light, Billy Joel's Street Life Serenade, and the Best of the Guess Who. And that is only to name a few. There are quite a few more up here on the rack. There are several that I think I never got around to buying, but I do have most of the quads that Audio Fidelity put out, if not all of them. And great products. So sad that they ceased that endeavor, but I wish them luck with whatever they're doing now, and maybe they'll make a comeback. But also, from the Guess Who, we get Best of Volume 2 packaged with the album Rockin'. This is a Dutton Vocalion twofer. So I want to end this video on Dutton Vocalion because they are the current champion of the Great Quad Rescue. As just mentioned, the Best of the Guess Who Volume 2 and Rockin', but they also put out Road Food. Where have we seen this before? A twofer with the album Number 10. Dutton Vocalion have put out a lot of Guess Who at this point. Share the Land and American Woman. Like, these are bona fide rock hit classics that are still appearing on rock radio. And on the electronic side of things, Tomita. Dutton Vocalion has put out quite a bit of Tomita, and I'm eternally grateful for that. He was an electronic artist from the 70s working with synths of various kinds to basically recreate classical arrangements. And he didn't necessarily get every single part into his works, but the arrangements are like faithful enough that you can definitely tell the source material that he was intending to honor. So I love Tomita. These things are a wild ride, stuff just like whizzing all around the room, and I'm so happy that Dutton Vocalion has actually released a few to this point, and hopefully we'll get even more. And we're getting close to the end of the video here. This thing is jaw-dropping. Billy Paul's War of the Gods and 360 Degrees of Billy Paul. This is freaking awesome. This is like my #1 recommendation of this entire video. Like, you gotta pick this up. So go to Dutton Vocalion's site and look through their multi-channel material. If you aren't already a Dutton Vocalion patron, I'm not associated with them in any way, shape, or form, but they are the current champion of the Great Quad Rescue, and there are some really fascinating titles, some of which are also up there, that are just waiting for you. And Michael Dutton is an absolute wizard of quad mastering. He has earned, of late, a reputation for basically putting out the best masters of certain material that anybody's ever heard. And we have just one more album to get to. I didn't want to go too long without discussing classical music on this channel. So here we go. I may have mentioned this SACD in the older Dutton Vocalion video that I did, and I'll link that below. But this is super cool, and we just saw this LP a few minutes ago, right? So Dutton has rescued this from analog into optical. He's done a marvelous job, as the cover depicts here. The orchestra has been broken out into the four corners of your room, so you get absolutely unprecedented separation and clarity of these orchestral parts. And this is a super cool work of music, and I have a lot of other classical as well. If you ever want to take a look through my discogs collection to see kind of what I've amassed over the years, I'm going to put my discogs collection link down below. And you can also use that as like a wish list. It may clue you into like some albums that you didn't know existed and may spark some interest. And just drop me a line if you ever wonder if I recommend a certain title or not. You'll definitely see some classical in there, but like classical Blu-rays and SACDs are kind of a weak link on discogs. Some albums that I have still need to be inputted up there actually. But it is a start. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this run through quad history, quad present, and hopefully quad future. I'm hoping that Dutton Vocalion will continue to pump out some jaw-dropping titles. They've been a great deal of fun and entertainment and joy for me in the last couple of years, and I sure hope they continue to, and that Rhino will continue to put some stuff out, that Sony Japan will continue to show some love to its 7-inch packaging SACD series. And that's about all for today. I want to remind you that if you've been enjoying this channel, if you enjoyed this video, to give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments, share the video. It all helps the YouTube algorithm recognize this channel as important, which will get this information out to more people and will hopefully grow our hobby, will cause labels to put out more surround material, and will hopefully just cause us all to enjoy this hobby a little bit more together. And with that, I'll just remind you, per usual, to live life in surround. We have Billy Cobham's. He's an electronic artist from the 70s working with synthesizers. Delilah, that's enough.